All right, Jason Rona here. We're at the Summer Indoor Nationals here at Outback Raceway in Chico, California. This is the track that's owned and operated by the A-Main Hobbies crew. This track is actually in their warehouse, and we've always had a good time here. I believe this is my sixth time being here. We're here with Ron Schuur from Schuur Speed and from Hobby Wing. Ron, how many times have you made it up here to the Outback, and what's your what do you think of this facility and the track?
To this facility here, the Outback Raceway, is probably my fifth time here,
Okay.
and I've enjoyed it all. I love the dirt they have here. Um, it's a shame to see it go. I'm kind of disappointed. I'm racing this weekend just to say I was here on the last race.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Well, good. As far as you coming up and representing Hobby Wing and Sure Speed, obviously, you got a couple drivers here with this weekend with you running the equipment, and talk to us about who's out racing with you this weekend and running the product.
yeah, right off the top, we have Shane Borden, who had success in your series last year, did very well.
Yeah.
He's doing good again this year. I think seeding for the buggy class, he is sixth or something like that. And then Matthew Gonzalez is running. I believe he's seeded eighth.
Okay.
And they're better racers than they are at the 3 laps. So I think
Yeah.
we'll see some good things today.
So as far as do you know what as far as these two drivers? I mean, they're a little bit different in age. Matthew's he's kind of a young driver.
Yes.
Do you know what their experience level is at this point and roughly their age?
Don't know the age. Shane's definitely probably 4 or 5 years older. Much more experience. He's been around. Did the series with us last year. Did well. Matthew is from the San Diego area. He's dominated the stock classes in SDRC, which is also a fun track, really nice surface. And he runs mod down there because the guys got a little bit upset with him running stock.
Right.
So he's coming on. He runs Sure Speed motors. Shane's running Sure Speed, and both of them are running Hobby Wing XR10 Pro.
And kind of going into a little bit with the Sure Speed stuff. You mentioned the motor. You talked about you're working on some updates for the Sure Speed motors, and what can guys expect here that are looking for the best from Sure Speed, and what are some of the updates?
Well, you got to stay up with the game here. So I was working for quite a while and came up with a little bit updated a new sensor assembly, aluminum on that end of the motor. That seems to be a little more effective and efficient at RPM especially. We've had great luck with it. I had a couple of the units at the Reedy race, and we got 3 of them in the main, at the A-Main, the Reedy on-road race.
Yes.
Myself included, so that was kind of shocking. But they've done very well there. We had a race at the Velodrome 2 weeks ago, I believe. And one of the gentlemen that runs my stuff, a customer, came to me and said, hey, can you build me something new? And I tried these new pieces out with him. And he went out and won the 13.5 and 17.5 class at the Oval Velodrome. So that was pretty impressive. It's all Roar approved, ready for the Nationals coming up. I'm looking forward to that. We have both the short stacks running strong and our traditional standard stack.
So in the stock motor game, we've talked about it a little bit before, but the one thing that kind of sticks out to me, especially when we run races like this, is the race lengths are kind of a lot different. We'll qualify at maybe 5-minute race, and then some of these mains are 8-10-minute races at times. How does that kind of go into your testing and kind of the development down the road? Because obviously the heat becomes a big factor.
Heat's a tremendous factor. In fact, I always say cooler's faster because copper builds resistance with heat. So you don't want to be hot. And everything I do with the motors, and again with the new updates that we have right now, it is not only improved components, but I've done things more to get air moving around inside and keep more stuff cool. And keep it running at optimum temperature.
So in stock, I mean, it's a lot of things, but heat is the enemy, right?
Heat's an enemy, yes.
And I see a lot of guys, and this is kind of I'm really kind of surprised that no one's kind of built it into the chassis at this point. But it seems like the fan creativity and trying to find an area to put fans, and they're on the speedo, they're on the motors, and what's your take on what do you like? What are the have tos and the have nots? What do you really have to have in stock in terms of the fans and stuff inside the vehicle?
Well, with today's, especially the buggies right now, there's just no air movement in the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to get air moving around and exiting. When we test or when I work with the guys, I always ask them to disconnect the fan. I want to know what's going on with the temperature, how we're gearing, and then come back and use the fan later, because the temperature of the motor is definitely cooler with the fan.
Mm-hmm.
But internally the temperature doesn't change as much as it does externally.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to pay attention to. So I like to know what the real temp is, then we connect the fans up and then keep it even cooler. The better fan is something that moves a lot of air, and it doesn't necessarily have to be right on top of the motor, but it should be a little bit away so the air is actually moving and you're moving air around it rather than just stopping the airflow. You get a high flow fan and put it 3 millimeters away from the motor, there's no airflow.
Can you explain the difference? I mean, I'm not really the fan expert, but I see all these different ones out there, and there's the turbo ones. You know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of different ones out there.
The WTF, the wild turbo fan, by far moves the most air.
Right.
That's all we use.
Mm-hmm.
When we have to run fans, WTF.
So obviously there's a reason why some of the equipment comes with fans, but then
Yes.
people are kind of going for the aftermarket version. So what's really the difference? Just the fact that it's just a little higher power.
RPM. It's the wild turbo or ball bearing, which doesn't necessarily buy a whole lot, but it does give you more RPM. But it's just a fan that was found or made for our uses, that produces high RPM and a lot of the flow is just super.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I mean, you can hear them when they're sitting on the pit lane.
Yeah.
Like the on-road race, it sounded like a helicopter was coming
Yeah.
in. So.
Mm-hmm. So when you're kind of just going in between stock in terms of on-road and off-road, do you find several the same I guess restrictions and things? I mean, do they carry over one to the other?
Quite a bit. It's about 80% the same. Off-road, you're looking more for torque-based, typically to clear jumps. On-road, you don't have the jumps, which comes to my benefit, but typically you run a higher RPM setup on-road than you will in off-road.
Mm-hmm. And that the Reedy race wasn't long ago, right? That was like
End of May.
End of May.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a while since I've been to the Reedy on-road race, but it seems like they've kind of added a few classes over the years where there was invite, then there was open, but now I'm seeing that there's other classes.
They added one class.
Okay.
It used to be the invite,
Mm-hmm.
which was the top drivers, and then you had the open modified, and then 19 turn
Mm-hmm.
the Reedy handout. And
Yeah.
now this last couple of years, there's a 17.5, there's 13.5, mod open, then the invite. So they actually only added one class.
Okay.
And
So in terms of going back, 19 turn would be more equivalent to the 13.5. That's kind of sort of the replacement?
We
Not
were
equal,
talking
but-
about that at the Reedy race, and I might have some numbers wrong, but the 13.5, we were turning lap times that the mod guys would have been envious for not all that long ago.
Yeah.
It's 19 turn is just so slow.
Right.
Looking backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just brings me a point to 17.5 for most applications is too fast for the guys to get started in anymore.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of jumping back to, back to the new equipment with the Schuur Speed. How do you see this kind of working in as we head towards the Nationals? Is you think this is going to be kind of a must-have for the stock guys trying to compete there?
It's like most things. Every little bit helps.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on the edge, yes, definitely it's going to help you out. It can help. It can't do anything but help.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a good driver, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
you can overcome a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But having good equipment just makes it that much easier.
Yeah.
And to that end, that's why we do it, is to make it better for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And We have our select versions in all the motors, and the select version is exactly the same motor that all the team guys that I help and support race.
So, as a explanation, um, as a non-motor expert, what is the difference when there is a select version or these type of breakdowns? What are you looking for, and what kind of classifies one as another?
Well, I sit there with the meters, and all the motors that come out of Sure Speed, I've got my fingers on or over,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at the numbers. My production doesn't vary wildly. The select motors are the ones. It's not so much the gap from resistance, just a resistance number. It's more how equal the poles are.
Yeah.
The closer they are, the better they tend to work and perform. So when I'm going through them, I look for the lower ones, obviously, but also, more importantly, the ones that are more equal. Because you
Mm-hmm.
could have a higher resistance motor that's equally high resistance that you can work with and get just as much speed out of as a low resistance, to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Not on road, but
Yeah.
to a point you can do that. And then I look at the rotors and go through and look for the ones that are the popular word now is asymmetry, but
Yeah.
basically looking to see how the poles are split and
Mm-hmm.
how that's all working.
Do you think when you're, so say if you're a customer or a driver, would you recommend that they would start off with more, I'm not going to say budget, but, they look more at the cost, they look more at the
Hmm.
pricing, and then as you kind of get a little bit better and you improve down the road, do you see it like, it's like, all right, well, now I'm a better driver, I'm trying to get that last extra bit, then you go for the select type of thing?
Yes, and that's a question I get asked all the time. I get phone calls here at the races. I asked the customer one thing. I said, "How many times during a 5-minute race do you crash?" Uh,
Truthfully.
Truthfully, yes. And if you're crashing, you don't necessarily need to select.
Yeah.
It's like we talked about just my updates.
Mm-hmm.
If you're crashing,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how good the product is. It just doesn't help you out.
Mm-hmm.
And my regular motors are very good. The select ones are just that little bit better.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So, and then we kind of go into talk a little bit of hobby wing here. We talked back at the race at Tacoma.
Uh-huh.
We talked there at the Spring Indoor Nationals. You guys had a new speed control. Obviously you talked some of the new guys are running them here this weekend. Some of your top guys. And what do we kind of expect for the new hobby wing Speedo, and how's it working and being received?
The XR10 Pro is what we're talking about, and it's being received incredibly well. Getting lots and lots of reports from the Reedy race, from the race here, all the races I've been to in the meantime. The common thing I hear is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
The adjustability and the performance are just. I thought it was there, but you never know until the customers tell you. And
Yeah.
the customers are telling us that they love this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one feature I want to just, it's a little off topic here, I just want to throw out here.
Mm-hmm.
The XR10 Pro was intended to run 4-pole motors. And during our testing, there was a problem with it, so we downplayed that and didn't really talk about it in the marketing. I will share with you that for a short course, 4x4 short course, it's a strong Speedo. And unbeknownst to me, when one of our updates came out just as it was getting released, our fine engineering folks didn't tell anybody. They corrected that. I found out about it, and I've worked with a couple of guys, and we've tested it, and it does indeed work very successfully now. We had a little problem with overheating that is gone.
Yeah.
And some of the team drivers have reported super performance out of this thing. So for the guys that are running the 4-pole motors in the oval classes and so forth, we now have a small speed control that will handle the abuse and more importantly, the 4-pole aspect of the racing.
Well, that kind of, I guess, leads me into a question for you. Right now I'm building an RC monster truck.
Sorry. No.
And, the guys are telling me, some of the guys back at OCRC, Trevor Adamo and the guys that they've been racing, playing with these, racing the trucks.
Yep. Trevor's really big into it.
And he said that they're using a 4-pole motor in those trucks. He says he has a friend that's using some of the Hobby Wing equipment also in their truck. But so basically what you're saying is if I have one of these axial based monster trucks, or maybe something like that, the solid axle or the shafty trucks they call them,
Yep.
that you could go with the 4-pole motor, and then you could run the new
XR10 Pro.
Yep.
Correct.
So you could pair them together.
Yeah. It depends on. I'm not 100% in tune with that. I don't know what kind of kV they're running. I don't know the particulars, but I don't see why, from the little I know from talking to Trevor, why it would not be a fine application. If you get into a super high pull amp draw, then you need to go over to our 8-scale unit where it's more robust and can handle the current, or dissipate the heat's probably a better way to put it than the current.
Why are the motors set up to where, like when we're racing here and we're using our normals, you got the 7.5s, the 8.0s, and then when you get to those motors, you have this kV rating, which like when I'm talking to these guys about their monster truck stuff, I'm like, I don't know what a 3,000 or 5,000.
Well, it's the type of wine that's being used. There's two types of wine: a star wine and delta wine. And when you do that, the turns can be a little bit more misleading, I'll call it. And so kV is a little bit more meaningful. What it's to measure motor to motor.
Okay.
It's more of it brings them together and gives you some performance.
So it's kind of a reading based off of the motor's performance.
RPM per volt. Yeah.
And so from what I've been told, they're in like the 5,000 range with these trucks.
Yeah, you'd be fine with the XR10.
Okay. And then what do you see as maybe the limit? Is there
everybody's always stretching that limit, and you could run a 4,000 kV motor versus that 5,000 you mentioned, and if you overgear it and throw a crazy amount of timing at it, I mean, you can successfully blow anything up.
Okay.
I mean, there's limits to everything, so I don't want to say, oh, you can go out and put a 6,000 kV in it, because you could.
Yeah.
But then you got to be sensible about the other side of it.
Yeah, running it to the manufacturer's specifications, not
something
your
like that. Yeah.
not your own concoction, right?
Yeah, you see a lot of interesting things.
So kind of going down that road, the hobby-based equipment, which is kind of what we're talking about, in a different side of things. You guys have, on the Hobby Wing side, have acquired a new guy, kind of a rep out there.
Oh, man.
Let's talk about the Charlie Swanka coming over and helping out with Hobby Wing.
Charlie, I've worked with and known Charlie for years, and I'm friends with the Novaks, so Charlie's just a good character to know. And unfortunately, with the demise of Novak, Charlie has agreed to come work with us at Hobby Wing, and I couldn't be more excited. I mean, that guy's got more experience than anybody else available, and we need some support to shore up our service and customer service area, and others. I mean, Charlie's just a good all-around guy, but I think you're going to see a huge turnaround with Charlie's presence on our customer service aspects. I think it'll improve dramatically. He's going to do a lot of good things in streamlining it and just being responsive.
And he's kind of active on another scene in a sense.
Very active.
He's active on he's been involved in crawling, scaling, those type of vehicles. I noticed lately he's doing a lot of FPV stuff.
Correct.
Where does that kind of fit in, down the road, and do you see the Hobby Wing stuff being used in that application also?
It's already being used, but not. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be super popular.
It's not mainstream yet.
It's not mainstream. That's a good word to put it. And Charlie's definitely going to take it in that. He's very big into the scaling and the rock crawling. He's going to be focusing in on that area, and in fact, he's already changing his fleet over as we're talking here. And as far as FPV, Charlie is totally immersed in that. Hobby Wing has a huge direction coming, and a lot of products that we're developing and working with for the latest FPV stuff that'll be hitting the market anywhere in the next 3 to 6 months. And I know we've diverted some of the stuff that was coming to me over to Charlie. He's got a lot more experience with it.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff we're going to have Charlie doing is I was mentioning earlier to someone here is he's going to be going back and doing commentary for Live RC back at New York, some national events. And Charlie told me just last evening that he's going to be doing some drone events that are going to be on ESPN3, I think they call it. And didn't know there was a 3 personally, but
Well, there's an 8. We know there's an 8.
oh, okay. But it's going to be pretty interesting, and like I said, I just ecstatic that Charlie's on board.
Yeah, I just picture Charlie as that guy in the dodgeball movie. You know the guy I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We'll see how that strategy pays off, Cotton. That's to me. But that's kind of probably the guy that they need in that side of the. And he knows a lot about it. He's been active, so I'm sure his input will be really kind of fun and entertaining on that side of it.
I can't think of one negative to having Charlie Schwenka around.
Yeah.
There's just, I mean, he's just that guy that's going to be a spark plug for us, especially in those areas.
All right, well, that's kind of our wrap up here with Ron. We went through, talked a little Sure Speed and Hobby Wing, and talked about some new additions with Charlie. So stay tuned this weekend. We got a lot of race coverage to go. We're just starting qualifying here, so a lot of stuff to come. And thanks for Ron for joining us again, and appreciate you guys standing behind us here and running the series with us. And we're having a good time. So thanks.
Jason, thanks again. I always enjoy coming out here and talking with you and going to the races.
Thanks.
Thanks.